What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Titanic, written and directed by James Cameron. Okay, let's make this review short and possible. See, what can I say about Titanic that has not been said within the last 23 years of this movie's existence? Titanic is one of those movies that you either think is one of the greatest films ever made or one of the most overrated, overproduced, and overhyped films ever made. Me, personally, it took me a long time to really grow to like this movie and even grow to appreciate this movie for its technical prowess. I think Titanic is an overall very very good movie, and I think to me this is James Cameron's last great movie where he actually cared about wanting to put quality instead of quantity. Titanic is a movie that doesn't really have much of a plot to it, but it's not about a plot. This movie is about the experience. This movie is an experience. This movie is James Cameron putting to screen the world's most famous shipwreck, being the sinking of the RMS Titanic. And does James Cameron do this effectively? Absolutely does. He tells that story to the best of his abilities, and to his credit, he actually puts a love story at the forefront to really make you care about the characters while the ship is sinking. And what's really good about this movie is that he takes the time to develop the relationship between these characters, and you have two actors in the roles that fit the roles so well and have really good on-screen chemistry. And Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, who played Jack Dawson and Rose. This is one of DiCaprio's earlier movies, and this movie showed the talent that was itching to come out of DiCaprio. Now, there are a lot of scenes where I think DiCaprio can come across as a little bit flat, but you can clearly see the charisma he has as a leading man. And Kate Winslet, again, there are certain scenes where she can come across flat, but there are also a lot of scenes where she's absolutely great. And the scenes with with Jack and Rose and their budding romance and relationship, that's really the movie's strong suit, and DiCaprio and Winslet have outstanding chemistry with one another. Perfect chemistry. They're backed by a very, very talented supporting cast that includes Billy Zane, uh, David Warner, Gloria Stewart, who plays Old Rose in present day 1997 when this movie takes place. You have Bill Paxton, who plays a character called Brock, whose character also takes place in modern day 1997. The whole framing of the story is this character named Brock, played by Bill Paxton, is obsessed with the Titanic, particularly finding this Hope Diamond, and he comes across a safe that has a bunch of drawings, and this is what leads him and his crew to find out about Rose, the elderly Rose, and one of the survivors of the Titanic. And this movie is basically told through Rose's point of view through flashbacks, and I actually like it. I like the the juxtaposition of present day 1997, and then we get to the flashbacks that take place in 1912, and gorgeous. James Cameron captured that 1912 period to perfection, from wardrobe and costume designs to the overall production design. It feels like you're watching a movie that is from 1912. That's how accurate and attention to detail he is with creating that setting. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful looking movie in general. The cinematography by Russell Carpenter, absolutely outstanding. This is a gorgeous movie, and like I said, it's also a brilliant, great directed movie as well. James Cameron has always been a visual artist. And this movie is no exception. So yeah, from a visual standpoint, the movie looks absolutely fantastic. From a production standpoint, it looks brilliant. From a writing standpoint, for the most part, it's overall really, really strong. Though I think there are certain lines of dialogue that can come across as very, very janky, and there are certain aspects of characters that don't go anywhere, don't have much of a payoff. Like the character of Cal, who is Rose's fiance, played awesomely by Billy Zane. He just comes across as a snobbish dick of a character. Him and his man Lovejoy, played by David Warner, they're pretty much like they're the two biggest dicks out of the entire movie, and they do whatever they can to make Jack and Rose's life a living hell. And to me, they don't have satisfying comeupses. Like especially once the Titanic hits the berg and it really starts to break down. Cal escapes. We see Lovejoy. Well, it's implied that Lovejoy dies. He clearly dies, but we don't get to see his death in a gruesome way. which I thought was kind of a letdown because the movie built these two up as just wretched assholes that you just want to see them go down, and the movie does not do that whatsoever. And to me, it kind of makes all the stuff you did with them kind of pointless because you built them up to a point where like you want to see these two get what's coming to them. Doesn't happen. So I'm like dissatisfied with that. But again, you also have a cast that includes Victor Garber, who plays Andrews, the man who constructed the Titanic. And I like Andrew Garber as an actor. I like him in this role. It's a small role. This was my first exposure to Victor Garber as an actor. I thought he did fine. Uh, the actor who played the captain, he did a good job as well. Like all the supporting players, they all do a really good job playing the roles. He even got these two guys who played Jack's friends, Tommy and Fabrizio. When the three of them are on screen, I can see the chemistry that this movie potentially could have shown between the three of them. But once Fabrizio and Tommy and Jack go on Titanic, Fabrizio and Tommy kind of disappear, and they get sprinkled all throughout the movie. You don't really see him again because the movie would put so much of his time and effort in developing the romance between Jack and Rose that you kind of forget that Jack came on board with a couple of friends. They kind of disappear, and then they come back near the end once the berg hits, and they get killed off within like I don't know 20 minutes of each other. That's kind of a letdown. It's kind of like whatever. All right, so let's just get into it. What do I feel about the action sequences of this movie? Well, I would say this: the first 2/3 of this movie, you're either gonna like it or you're gonna hate it. This movie does have a lot of build-up. It does take its time. I can see how some people could find that boring. Like when I first saw this movie, I thought it was completely boring. I thought the first 2/3 of this movie went at a sluggish pace when I was a kid. Went at a sluggish pace, and I thought it took forever to get to the good stuff. Watching back at it now, I don't mind the first 2/3 of this movie because it's building up these characters, and you're getting some really good, strong performances from these characters as well. Yeah, you also have some side characters that are completely underutilized. Like there's this character called Molly Brown, played by Kathy Bates, and I love Kathy Bates, but I don't think she gets even a smidgen of enough to do. Though I will say this, she does have a couple of funny, humorous lines and scenes to herself. So that's a win for me because I do like Kathy Bates as an actress, and I would like to see a little bit more of her since she's playing a real life person in the unsinkable Molly Brown. But yeah, to me, looking back at it now, the first 2/3 of this movie, they're good. They do a good job at just developing the romance, which is what this movie's really built on the back of. But once you get to that last third and the final, and once the Titanic hits the berg, the action sequences are thrilling, they're suspenseful, they're nail biting, they're jaw dropping, and James Cameron really painstakingly shows you just what these people went through once that Titanic hit the berg and the ship starts to fall apart and it just sinks to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. It's thrilling, it's scary. Every single time I watch that, I always envision myself in that moment in time, and it's frightening. Like it's really frightening, knowing that your life is going to die, knowing that your life is going to be leaving you, and it was just because of an accident. The Titanic hit the berg on sheer accident. And now we get to the ending, where Rose and Jack are in the water. Rose is on this bureau door, whatever. And yes, why didn't she let Jack on the thing? There's plenty of room. But you know what? You take that out. It's a fitting end for this movie. This is a love story, but it's a tragic love story. Because, even though Jack died, Rose was not going to let go. Even though they were spent, I think it was a couple of days on Titanic, the romance these two had for one another was real, was genuine, and there's really no other way to really end this movie except for that. And of course, you get what probably my favorite scene in any movie, where Rose is having her dream and she sees Jack in the middle of the grand hallway by the clock, and they share that kiss where everyone's like clapping before the credits roll. Very emotional, very powerful scene. I really enjoyed that scene. I like it a lot. Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, those are overall my thoughts on Titanic. Now, there's a lot more to talk about with this movie, but those are just my overall general thoughts. Overall, I like Titanic. I think this is James Cameron's. I think this was pretty much James Cameron's last great movie. It does have some flaws and problems with it for me, but overall, I think this is a very, very solid movie. I like it a lot, and when I watch it again, I appreciate it more, and I appreciate it more after every single viewing. So yeah, as a final grade, I'm gonna give Titanic a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's it's not a 9, nor is it 10 out of 10 because it does have some imperfections to it, but overall, this is still a this is really a good movie when you take away its history, you take away the overhypeness of it, like and just watch it. It's a solid movie. It's a brilliantly made movie. It's very, very solid. It has really strong performances, some decent writing, and dazzling, innovative special effects for its time. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Titanic. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.